Welcome to my channel. In this video, we took a deep dive into the historical story of life and death in the Warsaw Ghetto in the Republic of Poland, a country located at the crossroads of Central and Eastern Europe. When the German army marched into Warsaw in September 1939, the city shuddered under the iron weight of occupation. But what awaited the Jews of Poland's capital was something even darker than occupation: confinement, starvation, humiliation, and ultimately, annihilation. By November 1940, a wall had gone up around a section of Warsaw, turning it into a prison for more than 400,000 Jews. This prison would later become the stage of one of the most desperate, courageous, and tragic acts of defiance in history, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising of 1943. And when the Nazis set the ghetto ablaze, it became not only a literal firestorm, but a burning symbol of resistance against tyranny. The ghetto was not just a neighborhood, it was a city within a city, enclosed by 10-foot-high walls topped with barbed wire and guarded by German soldiers. It contained 2.4% of Warsaw's land but held nearly a third of its population. Inside, the situation deteriorated with cruel speed. Food rations for Jews were set at 184 calories a day, compared to the 669 calories allotted to Poles and the 2,613 calories for Germans. Starvation became endemic. People collapsed in the streets, and corpses were often left unattended, picked over by stray dogs. Children with swollen bellies walked barefoot in the snow, remembered survivor Marek Edelman, later one of the commanders of the Ghetto Uprising. We learned to live with hunger the way you live with air. You couldn't escape it. The Nazis intended the ghetto to be a way station toward extermination. Yet within those walls, life also found strange rhythms. Schools operated clandestinely, theaters staged plays, and underground newspapers circulated, telling the truth that German propaganda sought to bury. By 1942, whispers had begun to circulate. Deportations were not resettlements to labor camps but journeys to death factories. The Great Deportation, beginning in July 1942, tore through the ghetto like a storm. Every day, German soldiers and their auxiliaries marched thousands to the Umschlagplatz, the rail platform where freight trains awaited. Families clung to each other, begging to stay together, only to be ripped apart. Janina Baumann, a young girl in the ghetto, later recalled, "One night, there was a knock on our door. Soldiers stormed in. My mother clutched my hands so tightly it hurt. I thought they would drag us away, but by some miracle, they passed us by. That night, I learned what it meant to survive while others vanished." Between July and September 1942, over 265,000 Jews from the Warsaw Ghetto were deported to Treblinka extermination camp. Only a fraction survived. The ghetto was reduced from nearly 500,000 inhabitants to fewer than 60,000. Those left behind were mostly the young, the strong, and the determined, and among them rose a grim conviction. If death was inevitable, it would be faced with weapons in hand. Resistance did not come easily. The Jewish population had been brutalized, malnourished, and systematically disarmed. Yet in late 1942, as news from Treblinka became undeniable, the underground movements began to unite. The Jewish fighting organization ŻOB was formed under the leadership of Mordechai Anielewicz, a 24-year-old with fierce eyes and a quiet intensity. Alongside them stood the Jewish military union ŻW, aligned with more right-wing elements, but equally committed to armed struggle. Smuggling became not just a way to bring in food but also weapons. Pistols, grenades, and rifles filtered in, often hidden under false cotton carts, or carried by Polish allies in the underground. Still, the fighters were woefully underarmed, perhaps one firearm for every 5 men. Anielewicz, in a letter written before the uprising, captured the spirit of defiance. "We are all aware of what awaits us. We cannot save our lives. We want only to choose the way we die." On the eve of Passover, April 19, 1943, the Germans moved to liquidate the ghetto once and for all. At dawn, units of SS, police, and auxiliaries poured into the ghetto, expecting swift compliance. Instead, they met a storm. Grenades rained down from rooftops. Gunfire erupted from hidden bunkers. The Germans, stunned, retreated. For the first time in occupied Europe, a Jewish armed force had pushed back the SS. One fighter, Simcha Rodom, recalled, "They expected us to go like sheep. Instead, we fought." The sound of gunfire was like music, a declaration that we were still alive. The triumph was brief but electrifying. Within days, however, the Germans regrouped. Under SS General Jürgen Stroop, They returned with artillery, tanks, and flamethrowers. Stroop would later write coldly in his report, "The Jewish quarter is no longer." But it was not so simple. Entire blocks were set ablaze. Smoke blackened the sky, visible across Warsaw. The ghetto became an inferno. Eyewitnesses described the nightmare vividly. "The flames chased us underground," remembered survivor Vladka Mead. "We could not breathe. Smoke seeped into the bunkers, suffocating us. But to leave men to face bullets. We were trapped between fire and death." The fighters used a warren of underground tunnels and bunkers to launch ambushes. Women played critical roles, carrying messages, smuggling ammunition, and even fighting side by side with men. But the imbalance was overwhelming. Tanks crushed barricades. Buildings were reduced to ash. Survivors huddled in basements, coughing from smoke, listening to the cries of the wounded. On May 8, 1943, the Germans discovered the OB's main bunker at 18 Mile Street. Inside, more than 100 fighters, including Anielewicz, made their final stand. Surrounded, with no hope of escape, many chose suicide over capture. Anielewicz's last letter, smuggled out before his death, read, "The dream of my life has come true. I live to see Jewish defense in the ghetto in all its grandeur and glory. In these last moments of my life, I feel proud to have been one of the Jewish defenders of Warsaw." The bunker became a tomb. Today, it stands as a memorial. By mid-May, the ghetto was in ruins. On May 16th, Stroop ordered the Great Synagogue of Warsaw blown up, declaring the Jewish quarter destroyed. His report, chilling in its bureaucratic precision, listed 56,065 Jews captured and over 7,000 killed in battle. In reality, tens of thousands were murdered, starved, or burned alive. Yet the uprising had lasted nearly a month, longer than many nations had resisted the German army in 1939. It was not a military victory but a moral one. The flames that consumed the ghetto became a beacon of defiance. Few survived. Some fighters managed to escape through sewers, joining partisan units in the forests. Others blended into the Aryan side of Warsaw, aided by Polish allies. The majority, however, perished, but their resistance shook the German illusion of control. It inspired uprisings in Treblinka, Sobibor, and other camps. It proved that Jews, often maligned as passive victims, had fought with ferocity when given the chance. Emanuel Ringelblum, the historian who chronicled the ghetto in secret archives, wrote, "Future generations will judge us not by how we died, but by how we lived, resisted, and refused to surrender our dignity." Today, Warsaw bears scars of those flames. Mila 18 is a mound of earth and stone, a memorial to those who fought. Monuments line the former ghetto streets. Survivors' voices, preserved in memoirs and testimonies, echo across decades. The Warsaw Ghetto in flames was not merely a tragedy. It was a testament that even in the face of certain death, human beings can choose defiance, dignity, and resistance. The ghetto burned, but from its ashes rose a story that refuses to be extinguished. Today, their courage is remembered not as a battle lost, but as a symbol of defiance, dignity, and the unbreakable human spirit. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was the largest act of Jewish resistance during the Holocaust. It was a story not of victory in the traditional sense, but of honor, bravery, and the refusal to be erased in silence. Even in flames, the Warsaw Ghetto burned with defiance. If this story moved you, please share it so others can learn about the bravery of the Warsaw Ghetto fighters. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories from history. And in the comments below, tell us, what does resistance mean to you today?